Hello and welcome to Dude Reviews Comics. I'm Jason, the dude who will be reviewing the comics, and this is not only the debut episode of Dude Reviews Comics, but it is also my very first video. This journey for me started 5 months ago when I was looking for some reviews for the Marvel Graphic Novel collections and discovered Gross Critic's series of reviews on here. Looking at his playlist, I discovered he did weekly reviews, and through that I discovered the whole community here on YouTube of comic book reviewers. Watching people's videos, I enjoyed seeing other people's opinions, but the overriding feeling it left me I wouldn't mind trying this, so here I am. I'm no way trying to set myself up as an expert. I'm just a dude that loves comics, that buys a bunch of comics every week and wants to share his opinions on those comics with you all. So let's get underway. Got a big week this week. It was 10 comics I bought this week, so we've got a lot to talk about. We kick things off with the big event of the summer, the Avengers vs X-Men Round 7. Written by Matt Fraction, art by Olivier Coipel. Previously in this comic, the Phoenix Force is coming to Earth. The Avengers think it's a terrible thing and needs to be stopped, while the X-Men feel it's a good thing. And it's going to be the rebirth of the mutant race. They battle it out on the moon. The Phoenix Force comes for Hope Summers, who is this mutant messiah, this young teenager, and she rejects the power because it's too much. HeMan blasts it with his new Phoenix Killer armor, thinking that will destroy the Phoenix Force, but instead it splits into 5, and the 5 parts go into Cyclops, Colossus, Magic, Emma Frost and Namor, and form them into 5. They travel across the earth, doing many good deeds, making crops grow in the desert, making the world have fresh supplies of water and energy, and destroying the world's weapons so that there's no more violence. The Avengers still think it's a bad thing and that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that they need to be stopped, and they need to find a way to stop the Phoenix Force. So they go to take Hope away from Utopia, but Cyclops gets there and he's kicking their ass until Scarlet Witch shows up and saves the day, allowing the Avengers to risk. Then Cyclops, to end the issue, decrees no more Avengers. We immediately get to see what Cyclops meant when he decreed that. This beautiful first page that I really like, showing the Phoenix 5 and the X-Men searching for the Avengers. They've rebranded the Avengers as a global terrorist network and are hunting them down and locking them up. They go into battle with the Avengers, who are now joined by Scarlet Witch, and Scarlet Witch kicks Magic's ass. So Emma Frost shows up. Hawkeye tries to help out, but they set Hawkeye on fire. Cyclops then chastises Emma, saying this is not their way. Namor points out that this is war, and Magic points out that Scarlet Witch is evil, and Cyclops says he doesn't believe that, and no, this is not war, this is a rescue mission, and they will act accordingly, and they were going to let Hawkeye heal before locking him up. We then see Iron Man, Tony Stark, who's a bit down, blames himself for this whole Phoenix 5 thing, and can't find a way to combat the Phoenix Force. Black Panther gives him a slap to try and get his head back in the game. The Avengers then go out and engage the Phoenix 5 and the X-Men to try and buy Iron Man more time. During this battle, Scarlet Witch, much to Namor's annoyance, transports Namor back to Utopia. During this, Iron Man notices that there's some kind of connection between the Scarlet Witch's Hex Force and the Phoenix Force. Lee Kong and the Iron Fist show up, and Iron Fist says that they explain how that the Phoenix Force has been to Earth many times, and that they need to take Hope to this mystical land where Lee Kong and Iron Fist are going to train her to fight the Phoenix Force. Iron Man asks if they can all go there, because this seems a good place to hide from the X-Men. And then Emma and Namor have a private meeting because they both disagree with how Scott's dealing with things. So, you know, and I'm not going to spoil that there's a cliffhanger then from that scene, but I'm not going to spoil. I don't like to spoil the cliffhangers. So yeah, all in all, good book. I'm enjoying it. I felt at the beginning like I was the only one enjoying this book, but it's really picked up since issue 6, and a lot more people seem to be enjoying it now. Loving Olivier Coipel on the art. Some of his art is just really gorgeous in this issue, and I think I like John Romita Jr., but I think that Coipel's more suited to this book. The story seems to be coming together now, taking us in this different direction. We see the first signs of a fracture in the alliance of the Phoenix Five, first hints of dissension as they disagree with how Cyclops is dealing with this. I was thinking, I don't know how many of you have seen the film called Highlander, but in that film it's about these immortals, and there can only be one, and they will go around killing other immortals so that they can be the one, and every time they kill another immortal they get their power. And I'm wondering if this is going to be like the Phoenix Five. If Namor and Cyclops came to blows and Namor killed Cyclops, would he then get Cyclops' Phoenix Force power? I don't know, maybe this is the way they're going, maybe not, but that's something I'm going to be interested to see. You've got other things going on as well, like this link between the Phoenix Force and Wanda's hex field, sorry. You've also got then Hope being taken to this mystical land to be trained to fight the Phoenix Force. You've got all these little threads going together. Things are looking pretty grim for the Avengers, but I still feel that this book's going to be the redemption of the Scarlet Witch and the return to her as being a hero. I'm enjoying this book. It's a good jumping on point, mainly because Marvel does such a good job with these front pages that explain what's been going on. So you could pick this issue up and you'd follow it. I'm still enjoying this series and give it a thumbs up. Next up we have Earth 2. This is issue 3 and it's written by James Robinson, art by Nicholas Scott. Previously, the Apocalypse War ravaged Earth for 5 years. Where on Earth 1 we had the Justice League come together and they stopped the Apocalypse War before it started, really. In this world we only had the Trinity, and so the Earth ravaged Earth for 5 years. The Trinity then sacrificed their lives to end the war, leaving Earth a world without heroes. Last issue, Mercury, the last of the gods, gave Jay Garrick the power to become the Flash, and he literally ran into Hawkgirl. Mr. Terrific arrived on Earth 2 from Earth 1 and was instantly met by Terry Sloan, who wasn't pleased that he was there. And Alan Scott was about to propose to his boyfriend Sam, who was the love of his life, when their train blew up. This issue mainly follows Alan Scott as we see the wreckage of the train. He's badly burnt and his arm's broken. Looks like he's lost an eye. He's also lost a shoe and a sock, and he's searching for his boyfriend. When he sees this green light, the green light tells him that he has been chosen, that the power of the earth has chosen him to be their champion, to be their guardian, and that he's going to become the Green Lantern. He says, well, you know, why didn't you come during the Apocalypse War? We needed a champion then. They said, you had a sun god then, you didn't need a champion. But what's to come is going to be much worse than what happened during the Apocalypse War. So he agrees because he doesn't want Earth to go through any more bad stuff, and he becomes the Green Lantern. And and then they say that he needs something to project his power to, but it needs to be something that's close to his heart. So they take the ring he was going to give to Sam, and they transfer that into his power ring that's going to process his energy. Meanwhile, in Poland, the Flash and Hawkgirl have met up, and she's trying him out to see how powerful he is and how many fighting skills he's got, and he's got none basically. There's a little bit of dialogue between them when he first sees Hawkgirl, and she's got these wings, and he's like, are you an angel? And she's like, are you an idiot? I love that bit of dialogue. And then at the end things start dying off, and we see that the Rot basically have their own champion, the Man of Grey, to fight the Man of Green. And I'm not going to reveal who that is. That's something you need to buy the book for. I'm really enjoying this book. It pretty much had a standalone feel, as it was mainly the introduction of the Green Lantern and how Alan Scott gets that power. So if you'd never read this book before, you could pick it up from this issue. I'm really enjoying it. The art is brilliant. There's the one scene, if I can show it you, where this scene here, where he becomes the Green Lantern, is just a brilliant picture. Whatever you think of the outfits, it's a really good story. I'm liking the Flash's character. I like that they didn't give us Hawkgirl's origin straight away, that they're building that up a bit before we get what's actually hints about her year, that she's been around for a year. But it's good that we don't get straight away the answers, that they're going to give us a bit it would have been too much to have had two origins in this one, so I like how they've done that. I'm enjoying the story, and it's going to be interesting to see how they bring the team together. I can understand people that were big Justice Society fans not enjoying this book because, you know, it's changing the characters you knew. I feel exactly the same way with Green Arrow and Superman. I don't feel the new 52 versions are the versions of those characters I fell in love with, so I don't buy those books anymore. So I can understand people, but if you come into this with a clean slate, you'll love it. It's a great story. You're seeing this team put together from day one, how they get their powers, and it's very different. It's got a very different feel to Earth 1, and I like that. And I'm really enjoying this book, and yeah, I give it a thumbs up. Next up we have He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, issue 1, written by James Robinson, art by Philip Tan. Really good issue this was. It didn't blow me away. It was good, but it didn't blow me away. We get the origin story here. It isn't the origin story so much. It seems very much that Skeletor's won, and Adam cannot remember being He-Man. He just has these dreams of that he was He-Man. So then this Falcon comes, and he knows this Falcon, and he knows its name's Zor, but he doesn't know why. So then he has another dream, and he decides he needs to leave the forest. He doesn't know why, he just has this feeling. So he gets this woman to look after his elderly father, and he leaves. But then as he's trying to leave the forest, he runs into Beastman, who seems to be there, and specifically to stop him leaving that forest. And he has to back up the Beastman to get out of the woods. It was, like I say, it was a good issue. I thought the art was good. I thought the way they re-envisioned Beastman, that it had that feel of the original, but they reinterpreted it, and which I loved. And the art in this book was good. I thought that Prince Adam as well, in the cartoon, one of the things that always bugged me is, as Adam and as He-Man, he was the same build. So that it was like, well, why does he need to change? He seems a pretty strong dude. But in this, they draw Adam as more of a weakly kind of guy, which I suits it well. Like I say, I like this book. It very much had the feel of a first chapter that's setting everything out.
And didn't blow me away, but I enjoyed it, and I'll be picking up issue 2. Next up we have Animal Man, which another great. This is just consistently one of DC's best books. Jeff Lemire writes it as he has all the way through. Alberto Ponticelli is the artist. The imagination, there's one scene where Animal Man pulls the hunter's head off, or punches his head off, and the head sprouts legs like a spider and starts scurrying around. Just fantastic imagination. Animal Man is dead and is in the red. The hunter has took over his body and has kidnapped his son. He needs to return to the world, so he's gone to the totems who are in charge of the red, and they've agreed to send him back, but they can't send him back to his body because that's been taken over by the hunter. So they build him a new body, and they give him a lot more powers. Where before, when he accessed the morphogenic field and used different animals' abilities, you wouldn't have no outward sign of that. Now he partially morphs. There he's using the power of a rhinoceros, and he partially morphs into a rhinoceros. They really soup up his powers. He has a much closer fight with the hunter, where before he was getting his ass kicked, and it sets things up nicely for the next issue. The last page teased all kinds of things to me. After the warning from Justice League Dark in the last issue that Ellen, Animal Man's wife, was going to start the end of the world, here this issue we get something with that happens in the last page with Cliff. So it has me wondering, yes, we know Animal Man and his daughter Maxine are of the red, but could his wife and son be of something else? Maybe I've read that last page wrong, but it sort of suggests that to me, as putting that together with the premonition from Justice League Dark. I'm enjoying this. It's consistently one of DC's best books, and I give it a thumbs up. Next up we have Spider-Man, issue 689. For all of you with Spidey Fever, this is a good jumping on point. Though it's part 2, you can still easily follow it. In the last issue, Dr. Morbius found a cure for the lizard and transformed him back into Kurt Connors. Little do Spider-Man and Dr. Morbius know that Kurt Connors, whatever essence there was of him, is gone.
it is now purely the Lizard. So though he looks like Kurt Connors, he is still the Lizard, mentally. There's some great internal monologue at the beginning of this issue as he's trying to behave human to fool them so he can get access to everything and change himself back to the Lizard. He puts the blood in the air filter so that Morbius goes into a feeding frenzy. He then flees, Spider-Man chases him, leaving the Lizard to have access to the science labs where he can try and find a way to change himself back to the Lizard. The story was good, the art was good. It's written by Dan Slott, art by Giuseppe Camuncoli. It was good, it wasn't great, and it feels to me, maybe this is harsh, but it feels like we're treading water. We've got issue 700 coming up, and it feels like we're treading water while we wait for our story to kick in that would take us towards 700. I enjoyed it, it was good, like great, and I'd still give it a thumbs up. And yeah, if you've got Spidey fever, this is a great jumping on point because you can still follow the story. Another book I was really looking forward to this week was The Muppets, written by Roger Langridge. The way they structure it is really good. You have these sketches in it like an episode of The Muppets. Like here you have a Cusbanian springtime, and then later on you have pigs in space. But at the same time you have this storyline that travels on through it in between, where Animal falls in love with a gorilla called Meredith. Really good. They get all the characters spot on, and it's a really bit of fun. So many of the books are serious these days, and it was great to have a book that was just fun, and that's what this book was. And I give it a thumbs up. I'm definitely going to be on board for issue 2, and it's a 4-part mini-series, so I'm definitely on board for this. Next up we have The Punisher, written by Greg Rucka, art by, this is a name, Miko Suan, I think his name, I don't know if you pronounce it Suan. This is only the second issue I've ever picked up of The Punisher. The last issue I picked up because Ghost Critic gave it such a great review. I thought, yeah, I'm gonna try that. Loved it. He really lived up to Ghost Critic's review. So I'm trying it out. We'll see how we get on. I ain't saying I'm gonna get this every month. I'm gonna try it for maybe 3 or 4 issues and see how I feel then. This is still a good jumping on point as we start a new story here. The Punisher, for anyone who doesn't know, is Frank Castle. His family were killed. He was a Marine, and his family were killed by the Mafia. So he became the Punisher, and where the law stops, the Punisher begins. And he punishes the wicked, the evil, and the corrupt. Rachel, this woman up here, up here, was also in the Marines. Her family, at a wedding, her family and her friends were all murdered by this organisation called the Exchange. So she now wants revenge, and the Punishers took her under his wing to teach her how to become a vigilante. Last issue was the culmination where she agreed to go full board now as a vigilante. This issue they infiltrate this boat, this yacht where you have all these criminals are buying supervillain weapons. The Punisher deliberately makes it so his ID looks fake, so he gets took in and they beat him up to try and find out who he is. Meanwhile, Rachel, she plants these bombs that go off and distract everybody to evacuate the boat, allowing Punisher and Rachel to steal what they needed to steal. The art is good. It's not as dark as the previous issue. There's the one thing up here, they look very much like the Rat Pack, and the one character introduces himself to Rachel as Dino. I don't know if they're characters that have been in it before, but it just seemed bizarre to see that. I don't know whose idea that was, but it did seem bizarre. It was another good story. Like I say, good jumping on point. I'm enjoying Punisher. I especially like the characterization of the Punisher. He doesn't really get to say much, but his actions do speak louder than words. And it's a nice little book, you know. It's not the end of the world or anything, but they're serious about what they do, and that's punishing those who deserve to be punished. And I'm enjoying it, and I give it a thumbs up. Next up we have Wolverine, issue 310. This is the sequel to a story called Evolution, and it's called Sabretooth Reborn, and it's part 1. Sabretooth, Wolverine kills Sabretooth. They both have the healing factor that make them virtually impossible to kill. So Wolverine got this mystical blade called the Miramashi blade, and he used it to decapitate Sabretooth, and because it was a mystical blade, the wounds didn't heal, and Sabretooth was dead. Wolverine then learned that this mysterious character called Romulus was manipulating him from the shadows and had been all his life, so he trapped him in the dark dimension that is inside Cloak. This issue kicks off with Cloak tied atop the Empire State Building. Sabretooth has kidnapped his girlfriend, so Wolverine manages to untie Cloak, and they go to Sabretooth's grave, and Wolverine checks the body's still there. They find Romulus, who has been freed, that they've blackmailed Cloak into freeing Romulus, and Wolverine tells Cloak and Dagger to get out of there. He has this fight with Romulus. This redhead shows up, stabs Romulus. She whispers something to Wolverine before he passes out. He wakes up, he goes to the Weapon X facility where he finds out how Sabretooth has come back. The art in this issue is really good. There's this one scene in particular where Wolverine is falling, and that top panel there, the face or facial expression is just superb, and the art by Simone Bianchi is really good. It very much feels like a first chapter, and I think these days, back in the day, comics were released every month, so you'd make every issue be a good issue to sell well. Nowadays, they are very mindful that it's going to be put together eventually in a graphic novel. And it feels these days that where they don't write a bad issue, nobody sets out to write a bad issue, but that they do set out that this is the first chapter, so it's set out like a first chapter. So it has that feel of it being setting things up, very much like HeMan and Masters of the Universe was the first chapter. It has that feel of we're setting everything out here, we're not getting straight in to things, we're setting it out. So this one sets all the players up. You have this mysterious redhead, you have Sabretooth, you have Romulus, and you have Wolverine, and it sets them all up and sets everything out so that it can start hopefully giving you answers in the next issue. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good start to the story and definitely intrigues me, and it sort of fits in with what we've seen before with X-23, but I hope that they give an explanation how Wolverine has missed this when he's been to the Weapon X facility in the past, how he's missed what's been happening. I hope they do show that. But I enjoyed this book. It didn't blow me away like He-Man, didn't blow me away, but it was a good read, and it's a good first chapter and a good setup. It's also a really good jumping on point because, as I said, it's the start of a new story. So yeah, I give Wolverine a thumbs up. Next up we have Smallville, Season 11, Issue 3. This issue is good. We get the confrontation between Lex Luthor and Superman. We also get the Green Arrow and his wife Chloe checking out this, what they think is a crashed spaceship, but it's made by Queen Industries, so they're further intrigued and they're trying to find the pilot. And also we get to see the outcome of what's happened to Hank Henshaw following him being burnt. In the previous issue we find out what happens to him now. I really enjoyed this. When I bought it, I was organising the comics how I read them, and it kept going down lower and lower in my pile. And I was seriously thinking about maybe dropping it. I thought, well, you know, there's some new comics coming out in October and September that I want to get, so I'm going to need to drop some titles to pick up the new ones, and I thought Smallville was one I could drop. But then I read it and I loved it. It's a fantastic book. I feel the thing that really hurts it is the art. It's written by Brian Q. Miller, and the art is by Pierre Perez. And it isn't that the art is bad, and you get a sample of the art there. It isn't that the art's bad, but it's something the books like this always have. They try and look like the TV characters, the actors that play the characters, and you can't do that and have it look perfect panel after panel. It don't work. You can't do it. So it frustrates me. Why you look at the cover, that's the comic book versions of those characters. Why didn't they just say we're going to continue the story of Smallville, but the characters are the comic book version? That's the only thing that brings this book down. The story's brilliant. We get to find out in this issue as well why Lex Luthor keeps having these visions of his sister that he's able to interact with, what's going on there, and the way they tie it into something that's happened in Smallville from the past, from the TV show, I loved. So the writing is first top notch on this book, and it's really good. The art's good, except for the fact that they can't. Some characters they've given up with, you know. Some characters like Emil Hamilton and Lois Lane they've given up with. But then other characters like Green Arrow and Lex Luthor and Superman, they keep trying. And I think just give it up with all of them, make them the comic book versions, because I think that's the best picture of Superman on the whole book, and it's the cover. And that's because they're not trying to look like it. But it's still a really good read. In the back you've got this great episode guide for the TV series. So if you've never watched a TV show, it brings you up to speed on what's been happening in that, which I think is a really nice touch. I'm really enjoying this book, and I'm definitely on, and I give it a thumbs up. And finally, we get to my last book, and bottom of our pile is the book I was least looking forward to out of all the books I bought this week. But this book is also my pick of the week, which is balmy, because there were some books there that I did enjoy. Books like Earth 2 and The Muppets I really enjoyed. But this book for me was the best book out this week that I read, and it is Before Watchmen, Ozymandias, issue 1 of 6, written by Len Wein, art by Jay Lee. The art is absolutely gorgeous in this book. It follows the young Adrian Alexander Veidt as he shows you him, his family, immigrants who came over to escape the Nazis, came to America, or went to America. They then set up the business. They did very well. Adrian Alexander Veidt was born. That Alexander was a hero of his father's. That's why Alexander the Great. So that's why they gave him the middle name of Alexander. He then got these great marks at school, but they thought he cheated because their marks were so high. So they tell him to hide his ability. He gets bullied. He learns kung fu. He takes care of the bullies, and then he almost gets expelled. And that has the effect that he doesn't want to hide his talent anymore. That his dad has to pay a lot of money to keep him in school, practically blackmail the headmaster. And then Adrian his parents die. He's this genius, doing really well, studying. He goes and travels the route that Alexander the Great did, and he comes to what he wants to do with his life, and he starts making money, and meets this girl called Miranda, I think her name is, and he falls in love, and Miranda, yeah. The art, like I said, is gorgeous. And then she takes a drugs overdose, and that leads him to want to become the superhero Ozymandias. The art, as you can see there, is just gorgeous. Most of it is practically all in a monologue, but it works. You've got the scene here. She goes to Moloch's lair where she takes these drugs, and he comes home and finds her dead. It was just really good. I really enjoyed it, and it added something to the character from Watchmen. It's a book you could enjoy because it's basically like an origin story. So it's a book, if you've never read Watchmen, you could pick up this, and I'd recommend you do, because it is one of the most gorgeous comic books I've seen this year. Here you get the scene with the bullies, and when he goes to learn kung fu. But yeah, it's just a superb book, and I thoroughly recommend picking this up. It is the best out of the Watchmen books so far, and there have been some really good ones, but this is the best. So yeah, I give it a thumbs up. So there we go. Come to the end of my comic review. It was a long one this week because I had 10 books. I may do a vlog in the week as I have some more books to review, but there's too many to do here, so I may do a vlog just looking at books I've got off eBay and from the works here in the UK. But that's me for this week. I'll be back next week. Shorter episode it will be next week, because I've only got 5 comics on my pull list next week, so it should be a much shorter video. Thank you for watching, and take care.